Beneath the smooth, lightly glossy chocolate coating of a Hostess cupcake lies a soft, moist cake with a creamy filling hidden deep inside. Topping it all is the detail that made the product famous, the signature squiggly line of white icing across the top. That small decorative touch helped turn Hostess cupcakes into one of the most recognizable snack cakes on American store shelves. Although the finished product looks simple, producing it on an industrial scale requires a tightly coordinated process that combines speed, consistency, and precision. Inside industrial baking facilities, such as the one near Chicago, Hostess produces and sells more than 600 million cupcakes every year. At peak speed, the line can bake up to 42,000 cupcakes per hour. This means the factory is not just making cupcakes in large quantities, but doing so with near-perfect uniformity. Every cake must be baked to the same size, filled with the same amount of cream coated, evenly decorated identically, and packaged efficiently. That level of consistency is what turns an everyday snack cake into a large-scale commercial success. Although Hostess offers multiple cupcake varieties, the most iconic version remains the classic chocolate cupcake. This is the version generations of Americans know best. To create its rich brown color, warm aroma, and recognizable chocolate flavor, the factory uses between 15,000 and 20,000 pounds of cocoa powder every week. That cocoa must do more than simply contribute flavor. It also needs to blend smoothly into the batter, provide an appealing and consistent color, and maintain a uniform taste from batch to batch. For a mass-produced product, ingredient consistency is essential because even minor variations could affect the final appearance and eating experience. The process begins when ingredients such as cocoa powder, water flour, sugar, corn syrup, and vegetable oil are loaded into a massive industrial mixer. Along with these ingredients, the factory also adds a proprietary sugar blend that helps form a very large batch of cake batter. During mixing, the goal is not only to combine everything into a uniform chocolate brown mixture, but also to control the batter's viscosity carefully. The batter must be fluid enough to be deposited automatically into baking pans, yet stable enough to rise evenly in the oven and produce the proper cake structure. At the same time, additional ingredients that affect structure and moisture retention are added in precise proportions. These include leavening agents, emulsifiers, and eggs. Their role is crucial because they help ensure that the finished cake remains soft and moist, rather than turning dry, dense, or crumbly after baking. After about 5 minutes of continuous mixing, the chocolate batter reaches the desired consistency and is ready to move on to the next stage. Hostess also makes other cupcake flavors, including golden orange and strawberry varieties. For the orange version, for example, the process begins in much the same way inside a large industrial mixer. Flour and sugar are added first, followed by salt, and then a blend of milk, eggs, and natural orange flavoring. Once all the ingredients are loaded in the correct ratios, the mixer runs continuously for around 5 minutes. During this time, the ingredients are transformed into a smooth, dense, and uniform batter. From there, the batter is pumped into a dedicated holding tank where it passes through a mesh screen. This step helps loosen the mixture and incorporate additional air into it. That extra air is important because it helps the finished cake develop a lighter, softer, and fluffier texture after baking. In other words, it contributes directly to the tender crumb that consumers expect from a Hostess cupcake. Although the chocolate and orange varieties differ in flavor, they both rely on carefully controlled batter preparation to achieve the right structure and consistency. Once the chocolate cake batter has been fully mixed and stabilized in gently agitated holding tanks, it is continuously pumped to an automatic depositing machine. At this station, an entire row of depositor heads works in sync with the moving conveyor, releasing precise portions of batter into baking pans passing underneath. The objective here is not merely to fill the pans. It is to ensure that every cupcake enters the oven with the same initial weight, the same volume, and the same placement in the pan. Only by controlling those factors can the factory ensure that all the cakes emerge with the same final height, shape, and mass. This equipment can deposit more than 700 cupcakes per minute. With each cycle, every nozzle releases approximately 1.4 ounces of batter into the exact position required. Each baking cup is filled only halfway, so the batter has enough space to rise during baking. This controlled underfilling is important because the cupcakes need room to expand without overflowing or forming irregular shapes. Immediately after the batter is deposited, the pans move directly into the oven. The baking oven is around 70 feet long, and the pans travel through it in a serpentine pattern. Instead of moving in a single straight line, they follow a zigzag path that goes up and down. This design saves floor space while still allowing the cupcakes enough baking time. Each heat zone in the oven can be controlled separately, which helps the cakes rise evenly, bake consistently, and maintain their soft, moist texture. The cupcakes stay in the oven for a baking cycle of about 17 minutes. Throughout this time, the line control system continuously monitors important variables, such as batter density flow rate, deposit weight, and conditions in each oven zone. It also tracks the cooling area that follows. All of this monitoring helps ensure that the finished cupcakes come out nearly identical in size and quality. After leaving the oven, the pans move into a temperature and humidity-controlled cooling room, where the cupcakes remain for 45 minutes before proceeding to the filling stage. While the cakes are cooling, the cream filling is prepared. This filling is an industrial creme designed to be light, smooth, stable, and capable of holding its structure inside a packaged cake over time. The process begins in large stainless steel mixing tanks where ingredients such as sugar water or corn syrup, vegetable fat emulsifiers, stabilizers, and vanilla flavoring are combined. Some formulations also include dried egg whites or proteins, which help the filling whip more effectively and hold its structure once air is incorporated. Once the base mixture for the creme filling has been combined, it is gently heated while being continuously stirred. This allows the sugar to dissolve fully, helps the vegetable fat disperse evenly, and ensures the mixture becomes completely uniform before it moves to the next stage. This step is important because the filling must remain stable at room temperature and hold up during packaging, transportation, and storage without becoming runny or separating. When the mixture reaches the proper smoothness, it passes through either a homogenizing system or a high-speed whipping mixer. This is the stage where the filling acquires the texture that defines the center of a Hostess cupcake. Air is incorporated in a carefully controlled way so the creme becomes light, fluffy, and smooth, yet still firm enough to stay inside the cake once injected. The balance is critical. If the filling is too dense, it loses the airy, creamy character consumers expect. If it is too loose, it may leak or fail to hold its shape inside the cake. The result must be a filling that feels rich and soft on the tongue, while remaining stable throughout the product's shelf life. Once the cream filling is ready and the chocolate cupcakes have cooled completely, the two main components finally come together. The cakes continue along the conveyor and pass beneath a filling system equipped with precision injection nozzles. These nozzles gently pierce each cupcake and deposit the creme directly into the center. Each cake receives about 1/3 of an ounce of smooth vanilla creme. This is the step that creates the soft hidden core at the heart of every Hostess cupcake. Even though the cakes are relatively small, the filling process must be highly accurate so each one contains the same amount and the creme ends up in the proper location within the cake. At this production speed, accuracy matters enormously. The line can turn out as many as 42,000 cupcakes per hour, so the filling system has to perform the same delicate action thousands of times with very little variation. This is one of the most impressive parts of the process because it answers the question many people have when they first see the product. How does so much cream get inside such a small cake? The answer lies in precisely timed injection nozzles, careful cooling beforehand, and a filling that has been formulated to flow smoothly while still holding its shape once inside. In addition to the cream filling inside, the chocolate coating on the outside is another crucial part of the cupcake's identity. To prepare this coating, dry cocoa powder is first refined to an ideal fineness. This helps the final coating melt more evenly and produce a smoother texture across the surface of the cake. Once refined, the cocoa is transferred into large industrial mixing tanks along with sugar, vegetable oil, powdered whey, and emulsifiers. Inside these tanks, the mixture is gently heated and continuously stirred. The purpose of this stage is to melt the fat completely and blend all of the ingredients into a smooth, uniform chocolate coating without lumps. Emulsifiers are then added to improve gloss and help keep the coating fluid enough to move through the enrobing system. At the same time, the coating still has to remain stable enough to cling to the cupcake surface and set into the familiar, soft, slightly shiny chocolate shell. Once the coating reaches the correct temperature and texture, it is held warm in tanks and pumped continuously to the coating heads on the line. By this point, the cupcakes have been baked, cooled, and filled, and they are now ready to be released from their pans. Each tray is inverted and gently tipped so the cakes fall out upside down. As the cupcakes leave the edge of the conveyor, they naturally flip themselves back upright as they drop. This clever part of the line allows the cakes to be removed efficiently without complicated manual handling, while also positioning them correctly for the next step. Immediately afterward, the cupcakes line up for coating. They pass through a continuous curtain of smooth, flowing chocolate from above, which covers the surface evenly. This coating serves not only as a flavor layer, but also as a visual finishing element. It gives the cupcake its signature dark, glossy appearance and also hides an important detail, the hole where the filling nozzle injected the cream. Once the cakes have been filled and coated, that opening is no longer visible, leaving the cupcake with a clean and polished final appearance. Other flavor varieties follow much the same process. For example, orange cupcakes are also filled and finished on a similar line, but instead of receiving the standard chocolate coating, they are covered with an orange-flavored icing to match the internal flavor profile. This shows how the same production system can be adapted for multiple varieties while preserving the basic structure of the product cake, filling, outer coating, and top decoration. After coating, the cupcakes move to one of the most recognizable stations in the entire process, the squiggle machine. At this stage, white icing is applied through precisely controlled decorating heads that pipe the signature 7 squiggles across the top of each cupcake. This decorative pattern is more than just a visual flourish. It is the feature that instantly identifies the product as a Hostess cupcake. Without it, the cake would still be filled and coated, but it would not have the same iconic appearance that consumers associate with the brand. The decorating heads must be synchronized precisely with the movement of the conveyor, so the icing lands in the correct pattern on every cupcake. The result is a row of cakes that look almost identical, each one marked with the same familiar top design. After the decoration is applied, the cupcakes continue into the cooling system, which is typically a spiral cooler designed to save floor space, while still providing enough residence time for the product to chill properly. During this cooling phase, both the chocolate coating and the white icing squiggles gradually set and firm up. This helps the cupcakes maintain their shape and appearance before they move on to final packaging. Controlled cooling is important because if the coating or icing remains too soft, the product could be damaged in the handling steps that follow. By the time the cupcakes leave the cooler, they are stable enough to proceed toward wrapping, cartoning, and shipment, while still preserving the moist cake and creamy interior that define the product. After leaving the cooling system, the cupcakes are ready for the final stage of the journey, packaging. At this point, they have already been baked, cooled, filled, coated, decorated, and set. What remains is to wrap and organize them in a way that protects the product, preserves freshness, and allows it to move efficiently through distribution. To do this, the cupcakes are separated into multiple conveyor lanes and directed towards servo-controlled Delta flow wrappers. These machines are designed to seal each cupcake, or in some cases, each pair of cupcakes in film at very high speed. The wrapping stage is fully synchronized with the rest of the production line. Every cupcake must arrive in the correct position with the coating set firmly enough to withstand handling and the squiggle decoration intact. The wrappers enclose the cakes quickly and consistently, creating individual packaged units that are protected from outside contamination and better preserved during storage and transport. Because this step happens at high speed, it depends on precise timing and reliable mechanical control. If the cupcakes arrive too close together, too far apart, or not fully stabilized, packaging quality could be affected. That is why all the previous stages, especially cooling and lane separation, are so important. Once the cakes have been individually wrapped, they move on to the cartoning system. Here, the wrapped cupcakes are collected and placed into cartons through another automated process. The system mentioned in the source includes a quick-lock Woodman cartoning unit followed by a Pearson unit that handles automatic case packing and palletizing. In other words, the packaging line does not stop with the primary wrapper around the cupcake itself. It continues through secondary packaging, where multiple retail units are grouped together, and then into tertiary packaging, where cartons are packed into larger shipping cases and stacked onto pallets for transport. This fully integrated approach is one of the clearest signs that Hostess cupcake production is designed not only for baking efficiency, but for complete end-to-end manufacturing control. From the moment the batter is mixed to the moment finished, pallets are ready for shipment. The system functions as one connected line. The wrapping, cartoning, case packing, and palletizing stages are coordinated automatically, so that the product can move continuously without unnecessary delay or manual intervention. For a product manufactured at this scale, that level of integration is essential. At the same time, the system records traceability data such as production time and batch information. This is an important part of modern food manufacturing because it allows the company to identify exactly when a product was made and from which batch it came. That kind of tracking supports quality assurance, inventory management, and food safety procedures. After the necessary information is recorded, the completed pallets are stretch wrapped and sent directly to the shipping warehouse where they are prepared for distribution. By then, the cupcakes are no longer just cakes coming off a line. They are fully documented finished goods ready to be sent to retailers. What makes this entire process especially impressive is the way it combines delicacy and speed. Hostess cupcakes are soft snack cakes with cream, filling a coating, and decorative icing. None of those components are especially rugged. The cake itself must stay moist and tender. The filling must remain light and smooth without leaking. The coating has to cover the surface evenly and set properly, while the icing squiggles must keep their distinct shape. Yet despite all of that fragility, the line can still produce up to 42,000 cupcakes per hour. Achieving that level of throughput without sacrificing consistency requires extremely careful control over formulation timing, temperature, and motion. The chocolate cake batter, for example, must have exactly the right viscosity so it can be pumped, deposited, and baked evenly. If it is too thick, it may not deposit accurately. If it is too thin, the cakes may not rise correctly or may bake with inconsistent structure. The same principle applies to the filling. It has to be airy enough to create that signature creamy bite, yet stable enough to survive injection storage, transportation, and shelf life. The chocolate coating must be fluid enough to flow over the cupcake surface and hide the injection hole, but stable enough to set into a smooth shell. Even the icing on top must be soft enough to be piped rapidly while still capable of holding the familiar 7-squiggle pattern after cooling. This is what makes the Hostess cupcake more technically interesting than it first appears. To the consumer, it is simply a packaged chocolate cupcake with cream inside. But behind that simple appearance is a highly engineered food product. The cake formula is designed for softness and moisture retention. The filling is engineered for lightness and shelf stability. The coating is formulated for both appearance and function. The decoration is applied with precision to reinforce brand identity. And the packaging line is integrated tightly enough to keep everything moving efficiently from mixing bowl to pallet. Another important part of the story is brand recognition. Hostess cupcakes are not famous only because of taste. They are also famous because they are instantly identifiable. The dark chocolate coating the hidden creme center and especially the white icing squiggle make the product unique at a glance. In a crowded snack market, that visual identity matters enormously. The squiggle machine is therefore not a trivial finishing step. It is part of what transforms a generic-filled cupcake into a Hostess cupcake. That small decorative pattern helps preserve decades of consumer recognition and emotional familiarity. The process also illustrates how industrial food manufacturing often depends on balancing shelf stability with sensory appeal. Hostess cupcakes are packaged products meant to be transported, displayed, and sold over time, so they must remain stable under normal conditions. At the same time, they are expected to feel indulgent and fresh when eaten. That means the factory has to design every element with both logistics and pleasure in mind. The cake must not dry out too quickly. The filling must not collapse or separate. The coating must not become messy or unattractive. The wrapper must protect the product without slowing production. This balance between practicality and indulgence is one of the reasons the product has remained successful for so long. The same can be said for variety expansion. Although the classic chocolate version remains the most famous, Hostess has adapted the same general process for other flavors, such as orange, golden, and strawberry. That flexibility shows the strength of the production system. By adjusting batter flavor coating type or decorative details, the company can create different versions while still using the same core structure: mixed batter-controlled deposit, baking, cooling, filling, coating, decoration, setting, and packaging. This allows for variety without losing the consistency that large-scale manufacturing requires. In the end, Hostess cupcakes are a perfect example of how a familiar snack food can depend on a remarkably sophisticated production line. What seems like a simple chocolate cupcake is actually the result of carefully managed ingredient preparation, automated depositing, zone-controlled baking, precision filling, smooth coating, iconic decorating, staged cooling, and fully integrated packaging. Every part of the process is designed to protect the product's softness, appearance, and recognizability while enabling very high output. That is how Hostess cupcakes are made in the factory, through a combination of baking science, mechanical precision, and branding discipline that turns a small snack cake into one of America's most recognizable packaged desserts.